There is a place where mistakes are not made quietly, where one wrong move means a shakeup of the world order. A place where tension doesn't build up over years. It's already there, every day. And that's exactly why it's strange how little attention we pay to this place. It's not a big country, it's not rich, it's not even a symbol of power. And yet, it's a place where a force gathers that has nowhere to retreat. This is not a story about how a conflict begins, it's a story about a place where it's already happening. It's called Djibouti, a small and poor African country that you would hardly be able to name without a map. It has no oil, no gas, no industry, no technology. Basically, it has nothing that would make it a geopolitically interesting target. Nothing except for one thing: its location. Right here today, the United States and China are facing each other militarily. Bases, aircraft, ships, intelligence. A few kilometers of space between two superpowers that don't trust each other and can't afford to back down. And they're not alone there. Other players have also poured into this country, not wanting to stay on the sidelines if something breaks out here. That alone shows this is neither a coincidence nor a regional episode. In this video, we'll look at why such a huge military and political force is concentrated in a country like this. Why has Djibouti become a place where the great powers look each other straight in the eye? But first, we need to show exactly what the center of the United States and China looks like here today, and why it's more dangerous than it seems at first glance. You're watching the Beyond Borders channel. Let's begin. The United States and China. Face to face. Right here in Djibouti, today the United States and China aren't looking at each other through maps or satellite images. They're standing physically opposite each other. Base against base. Planes, ships, intelligence systems, in an area where neither movement nor intention can be hidden. There's no buffer zone here, no neutral territory. Only a minimal space between two armies that don't trust each other and are watching each other every day. The Americans have their only permanent military base in all of Africa, in Djibouti. Camp Lemonnier now hosts about 4,000 to 5,000 soldiers and personnel, and it serves as the main operational hub for the United States in the Horn of Africa and the Middle East. It shares the airport with a civilian terminal, has a long runway used by drones, transport planes, and special forces, and is connected to naval operations in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. This is not a symbolic presence. It's the nerve center of American operations in the region. But just a few kilometers away, there's a Chinese base. Beizi. The Chinese base is the first in China's history, opened in 2017. It is located near the Dorale port and is almost 12 kilometers away from Camp Lemonnier. According to navigation, it's less than a half-hour drive by car. The Chinese contingent is estimated at 1,000 to 2,000 soldiers, and the base has port facilities, repair docks, and logistical infrastructure for warships and naval missions. Officially, it's for logistics and anti-piracy, but in reality, it's about establishing a permanent military presence in a highly sensitive area. This is no longer about a distant geopolitical conflict. This is a game of nerves. In 2018, it became public for the first time. American military planes were repeatedly targeted by laser beams from the area of the Chinese base during landing. The Pentagon filed an official protest. China denied everything, and that seemed to be the end of it, but it wasn't. The United States subsequently adjusted flight procedures, security protocols, and the way aircraft moved in the area. Not because they wanted to, but because they no longer considered the environment safe. When the military changes its behavior, it means the risk isn't theoretical. Djibouti is not a place where the United States and China are preparing for war tomorrow. It's a place where they test the limits every day. They monitor reaction times. They collect data. They measure each other in real time. No shots fired, but not without consequences. This isn't the Cold War like it used to be. No oceans between rivals. No thousands of kilometers apart. This is a contact zone. And when great powers get this close to each other, a mistake is no longer a matter of diplomacy. It's a matter of seconds, physics, and human error. And that's why this isn't just about the United States and China. Because when one place is this hot, it always attracts attention. Always more players who don't want to stay on the sidelines if something goes wrong. They're not alone there. When the United States and China find themselves in one place, they rarely remain alone, and Djibouti is no exception. Quite the opposite. France also has its military presence in this small country, the former colonial power, not just symbolically, but with thousands of soldiers, with an air force and training facilities. For Paris, Djibouti is an insurance policy in the Indian Ocean, and the last stronghold in a region where Western influence is gradually weakening. Then there's Japan, a country that behaves extremely cautiously in military matters and only rarely operates outside its own territory. Djibouti is the only Japanese military base abroad. Officially, it's there to fight piracy. Unofficially, it's because Tokyo doesn't want to leave this area to China without supervision. Italy and other European allies also have their own smaller contingents, using the bases as logistical and operational points for missions in Africa and the Middle East. Each of them has a slightly different reason, but the result is the same. On one of the smallest territories in Africa, there is a concentration of military power that elsewhere would cover an entire region. When so many armies meet in such a small space at once, every movement has an audience. Every takeoff is recorded. Every ship is watched. Djibouti is turning into a place where great powers not only watch each other, but also learn from each other how they behave in crisis situations. Who reacts quickly? Who hesitates? Who tests the limits? And this is where we come to the question that stands out the most from all of this. Why this country in particular? Because the answer doesn't lie in the armies, but on the map. Why here in particular? Djibouti would never be a target on its own. It's not a country anyone would want to control for its territory, population, or resources. It's a country the world needs to bypass in only one way, and that's where its strength lies. Off its coast, there's a strait that global trade can't afford to lose. A narrow bottleneck between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, through which a huge portion of the world's traffic passes. Oil, gas, containers, and food. Everything that connects Asia with Europe. If this strait slows down, the whole world feels it. If it closes, it becomes a crisis. And that's exactly why this isn't about controlling territory, it's about controlling the flow. It's about the ability to monitor, protect, or, in the worst case, threaten the movement on which the global economy depends. Djibouti isn't on the edge of the system, it's at its throat. For the United States, it's an insurance policy. Having a presence here means they have oversight of one of the planet's most sensitive maritime routes and can respond quickly. If the situation gets out of control, for China, it's something else. It's a ticket. Proof that it's no longer just a country that trades with the world, but a country that can protect it and potentially even influence it. And this is exactly where their interests overlap. Not because they want to fight, but because they can't afford not to be present. Djibouti has thus become a place where economy, security, and geopolitical prestige meet. A place where even a tiny state suddenly holds leverage that the world's greatest powers can feel, not by force, but by location. And when such leverage appears, it starts being traded, not openly, not officially, but systematically. And this is exactly how Djibouti changes from a geographical coincidence to a business model that is just as profitable for the local power as it is risky for the world. A country that rents itself out. Djibouti quickly realized one thing. It can't compete with strength, economy, or population, but it can offer stability in a place where instability is expensive. And that's a commodity that great powers are willing to pay for. The state here doesn't sell ideology or alliances. It sells access, land leasing, ports, airspace, silence, and above all, the certainty that the bases standing here won't be threatened by internal chaos from one day to the next. In a region where governments collapse and borders are burning, that's more than enough. The president and his regime maintain balance just enough so that no one gains the upper hand. The United States of America, China, France, Japan, they all pay. They are all tolerated. No one is allowed to dominate. The greater the tension between them, the more valuable Djibouti becomes. Not as an ally, but as a platform. This is not weakness, this is strategy. Rental income forms the backbone of the state budget. Without it, the country would have nothing to finance its own stability. And without stability, no one would be interested in the bases. It's a closed circle that works only as long as the world is nervous enough. And here, the first paradox appears. Djibouti has an existential interest in making sure that tension never completely disappears. Not for it to escalate into war, but for it to exist constantly, right on the edge where the great powers are afraid to leave, but even more afraid to make the first move. However, this model has its limits. The more armies, ships, and planes are concentrated here, the less room there is for error. Djibouti's marketed stability is growing more fragile, and it increasingly depends on developments in countries it does not control, because Djibouti is not located in a peaceful region. It lies on the edge of several conflicts that could merge into one at any time. And that's where leasing becomes a risk that the country itself no longer has under control. When the surroundings are burning, Djibouti may seem stable, but it is surrounded by chaos. And that is exactly what makes this country more than just a logistical point. It makes it an insurance policy against a regional explosion that could escalate into something much bigger. To the northeast from here is Yemen, a war that did make the headlines but never really ended. The Houthis are attacking ships in the Red Sea using drones, missiles, and mining. Each such attack immediately increases the importance of the bases in Djibouti, because from there, monitoring, response, and intervention, if necessary, are carried out. The more unpredictable Yemen is, the more the great powers focus on this place. To the south is Somalia, long-standing instability, terrorism, piracy. Even though the threats change, the essence remains the same. A region where state control ends quickly and violence comes cheap. That's exactly why bases that can act quickly, quietly, and without lengthy political processes matters here. To the west lies Ethiopia, a country that has just come out of a bloody civil war, and with new local conflicts in the north, Eritrea, a heavily militarized state that may not be fighting at home, but regularly intervenes in foreign wars in the region. And then there's the sea itself. The Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden are not just trade routes. These are areas where regional conflicts turn into global problems. Just a few attacks on ships, a few insurance policies canceled overnight, and global trade starts looking for detours. Expensive, slow, risky. In such an environment, every base changes from an observer to an actor. Every radar matters. Every takeoff can be read as a signal. And every hesitation can encourage someone else to push the boundary one step further. Djibouti thus finds itself at a point where external conflicts are constantly pressing from the outside, while the great powers are balancing on the edge from within. Not because they want to escalate, but because the escalation around them forces them to stay. And the longer this situation lasts, the more likely it is that the decisive moment won't come from the negotiating table. It will come from the field, from a mistake, from a misread signal. And that's when it will become clear whether Djibouti is just a quiet knot in global security or a place where a chain reaction will start that no one can stop. When the gate closes, it doesn't take much. Not an invasion, not a declaration of war, just an incident, an attack on a ship, a poorly assessed maneuver, a drone shot down, or someone who figures that short-term chaos will bring them a long-term advantage. If Bab al-Mandab even slows down, the world will feel it immediately. Ships will start to stop. Insurance companies will increase prices or drop coverage. Routes will be extended by thousands of kilometers around Africa. Deliveries will be delayed. Energy will become more expensive. The pressure will spread to Europe and Asia faster than governments could even meet. And this is exactly where the difference between a regional problem and a global crisis is defined. At that point, the great powers would have no choice. The bases in Djibouti would shift from observation posts to response instruments. Planes would not be flying just for surveillance. Ships would not just be present. Every move would be a signal. Every signal would be read by the other side as a test. And when the United States and China are only 10 kilometers apart, the room for misunderstanding shrinks to a minimum. Not because they want to fight, but because they couldn't just let the other side act alone. That's the moment when a safeguard becomes a risk. When a presence that was supposed to stabilize actually starts to increase tension. Djibouti wouldn't become a battlefield in such a situation because someone wanted to fight. It would become a battlefield because too much power, trade, and tension flow through here. And that's exactly where its danger lies. Conclusion. Silent battlefield. Djibouti today is not at war, and maybe it never will be. But that doesn't mean it's safe. It's a place where great powers learn to operate in close proximity, where boundaries are tested without gunfire, where tension is kept beneath the surface because letting it fully erupt would cost too much. It's not a destination, it's a knot, a place where trade, security, and power intersect. And that's exactly why it's dangerous, that most of the world hardly talks about it. Because history shows that the biggest turning points often don't start where everyone is looking. They start where we rely for too long on the idea that nothing is really happening. So the question isn't whether Djibouti is important. The question is, how many similar places exist today? And which one of them will stop being quiet first?
If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a like and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next ones I'm working on. You can support my work through a tip. If you'd like to help the video reach more people, please click praise. Thank you.